Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
It's our fun unit, and we're going to be talking about some really fun body idioms that have to do with parts of our bodies and what their meanings really are. Because if you were to hear some of these idioms and hadn't really learned what they meant, you would be a little confused. Some of them sound kind of weird, like, I want to pick your brain. You want to what? What? That
weird.
Sounds disgusting. Yeah, we're going to learn about some of these very, very popular and often used idioms. I know sometimes we have programs about idioms and there will be one or two that I don't use at all. But all of these over the next 2 days are used quite often. I use them all the time. So we're going to take a look at some of these, their history, their meanings. Are there any that are your favorites in here, Tom, that you've looked over?
Yeah, some of these are pretty cool, but of course we're only scratching the surface here because there are so many idioms that involve the body. Just think of a part of the body and you'll be able to think of an idiom for it, like the thumb. Oh, rule of thumb. I can push you in like a thumbtack with my thumb or something like that.
Or he has a green thumb.
That too,
yeah.
Exactly. So there are all sorts of them, and we might touch on them as we go through our lesson, but we're going to only talk about a couple of them today. So let's get to it. Let's listen to the contents of our lesson, and we'll be right back.
Learning a language can be full of surprises, especially when it comes to idioms. English is packed with expressions that don't make much sense when taken literally, but add color to everyday speech. These body-related phrases might sound strange to non-native speakers. However, they carry valuable meanings. An arm and a leg. The expression an arm and a leg means something extremely expensive. While its origin remains uncertain, some believe it stems from the idea of paying a significant price, comparable to the cost of losing an arm and a leg in an accident and dealing with substantial medical expenses. For example, owning that sports car will cost an arm and a leg, shows that an item has a high price tag. Pick your brain. Next we have pick your brain, a phrase often used when someone seeks to tap into another person's expertise or ideas. One theory suggests it came from a medical practice where doctors would remove small sections of a patient's brain for study, referred to as brain picking, to gain insights into how the mind worked. For instance, could I pick your brain about how to start my own business? Illustrates that a speaker desires to gather advice. Get something off your chest. To get something off your chest describes the act of sharing a personal burden or worry with someone else. The phrase conveys the image of removing a weight, allowing one to feel lighter. An example could be, Maggie needed to get something off her chest, so she talked with a friend about her worries, highlighting the sense of release that comes from expressing concerns.
Okay, it's time for us to discuss the contents of our lesson for today. We got one to begin with here, one idiom that involves the body, from head to toe, which means from the top of your head to your toes. That just means completely.
Well, let's talk about our first vocabulary word first, though, which is idiom. What's an idiom? It's a group of words, and it has a meaning that is not literal. If you were just to look at the words, like here's one, an arm and a leg. What does that mean? An arm and a leg. So, what are you talking about? It doesn't mean what it says if you just look at the individual words. Over time, it's developed a very special or specific meaning that is known to speakers of that language. But if you're learning that language as a second, third, fourth, fifth language, whatever you're on, you may not be able to figure out what it means. We've got a lot of Chengyu in Taiwan that if I hear those 4 characters, I think, okay, I know that's a Chengyu because those 4 words together make no sense to me. So that's how I know it's a Chengyu. So idioms are sort of similar. You'll hear words put together and you'll think, what in the world does that mean? That's an idiom. We're going to talk about some really famous ones.
Yeah, what in the world? That's an idiom itself. And indeed, we are talking about idioms that have to do with the body. Okay, let's talk about the first one. Well, basically, it's an introductory paragraph, so let's go through it. It says, learning a language can be full of surprises, especially when it comes to idioms. I could say that that's actually the fun part of learning languages because you have very unique ways of phrasing things. I would say learning the Chengyu in Chinese has been very fun because, oh, wow, how did they think of that? That's very clever. And, of course, China, of course, has many thousands of years of history, and they've had all that time to come up with basically a 4-character phrase for any kind of situation.
Yeah.
And, yes, languages do have lots of idioms in that. And, of course, they're a lot of fun when you come across them, and they're even more fun when you can actually use them in a conversation.
Yeah, don't overuse them, though. Sometimes in Taiwan, I get a little tired of hearing it's raining like cats and dogs, or it's raining cats and dogs, or that's a piece of cake. I hear that one too much, too. So why not, as a goal this year, decide you're going to learn 5 new idioms and try to put them into your language and to use them. And if you've got a good friend who speaks English natively, ask them if you can practice on them so you use them correctly. So let's get going here. Learning a language can be full of surprises, as we said, and idioms are one of those fun surprises. English is packed with expressions, not just idioms, but we have so many different ways to say different things about different situations that sometimes it feels like English is new to me too. We're inventing new things all the time, as you know. So you gotta be, be on your toes. There's an idiom. If you're on your toes, it means you are ready for anything. You're not waiting for people to hand things to you. You're just always in a situation where you're ready to do something, ready to learn in this case. So let's see what we can find out here. When we talk about words meaning something literally, it means you look at the words as they're spelled out and as they're grouped together, and they mean that exactly. So you're not coming up with some other meaning that's kind of hidden. And when I say, hey, Tom, I'm going to be late today, that's literal. I'm going to arrive late for whatever we're doing. But if it's an idiom, I would say words together that don't make any sense, really, if you're just listening to it for logic. So we're going to talk about how we use these idioms to add color to our everyday speech.
Yeah, for example, I could say in a situation, if you want to describe a lot of people being in a small place at the same time, you might say, oh, there's like 1 million people here. That's just to express the fact usually there aren't that many people in one place, but sometimes you might see that many people in one place, so you could say, well, there are literally 1 million people here. There are actually truly 1 million people here to watch the fireworks or whatever. But here, of course, the idioms can't be taken literally. You don't say it's raining cats and dogs, and then you see cats and dogs actually flying out of the sky. There's an old dumb joke I think my band teacher told me once. Yeah, it's raining cats and dogs outside. I just stepped in a poodle.
Oh, bad.
A poodle, of course, is a kind of dog, but it sounds very similar to the word puddle, which is a small gathering of water that you might step in if you're walking along the sidewalk. I just stepped in a poodle, or a puddle is what you should say. And, of course, these idioms add color. They make them more interesting. They add color to everyday speech. Every day here, boy, I want to spend some time on that, but every day here is an adjective, like everyday activities. You don't say, I brush my teeth every day. You don't spell it all together. If in that case, it's an adverbial phrase, so then you would say, I brush my teeth every day, each day. There are 2 different words.
Yeah, that's really important. So these body-related phrases might sound strange if you're not a native speaker, but they carry valuable meanings. So here's numero uno, number 1, an arm and a leg. This expression, an arm and a leg, means something extremely expensive. So if you buy something that really cost a lot of money, you could just say, yeah, this cost me an arm and a leg. Like you had to actually take an arm and a leg from your body and hand them to the clerk at the store instead of cash. So Yeah, its origin remains uncertain. A lot of our idioms are so old. Sometimes we don't know where they came from or where they started. But some believe it stems from the idea of paying a significant price. So when you use this phrase to stem from, it just means to come from. What's a stem? It's that stalk of a plant where a leaf will grow or a flower. That's the stem. So where does it come from is what that means. If something stems from something, that's a really great phrase to know, especially if you're in business, guys. It's a phrase you'll often see in business. Yeah, our deficit stems from overspending. We've been spending too much, so now we have a deficit. We're in the red. So we don't know for certain where this phrase comes, but some people think that it comes from this idea of paying a significant price. If you had to pay with an arm and a leg, I would say that's a significant price.
Indeed. You just mentioned the term red ink or in the red.
We're in the red.
To us, that means you owe money, but I guess in Chinese society, since you all like the color red.
Yeah, like the stock market here.
Yeah, that means just doing well. If your letters are in the red, 红字, then you're actually making money. But it's the opposite
in America.
In America or other Western countries.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about this phrase, an arm and a leg. And yes, what's the origin? Well, some people think it comes from the idea of paying a significant price and is comparable to the cost of losing an arm and a leg in an accident and dealing with substantial medical expenses, which you would incur or which you would have if you're in the United States, okay, because they have such a horrible healthcare system there. If you have to go to the ER, it could break the bank. It could make you go bankrupt, and that's why I don't like to go to the United States to visit my folks unless I have insurance first. But if something's comparable, it just means it's kind of the same thing. It sort of has the same meaning, or it's a similar situation.
Yeah, you can also pronounce this word comparable. I've heard a lot of people say comparable. I think comparable is used more often. And I have to apologize to you for that because it would be easier for you guys if we just said comparable. And you're just trying to compare or liken one thing to another to say they're similar. So it's similar. That's a word you could just replace with comparable. Similar to the cost of losing an arm and a leg. For example, here's an example sentence for you. Owning that sports car will cost an arm and a leg. And usually we do use that verb cost. Oh, this cost me an arm and a leg. Oh, I bet that new house that the Johnsons bought cost them an arm and a leg. So we do use cost a lot. So you might want to memorize that as you memorize the idiom an arm and a leg. To cost an arm and a leg.
Right. And if you buy a sports car and you've lost an arm and a leg, you better make sure that the car has automatic transmission, because if you're minus a leg, you won't have a foot to activate the clutch if it's a manual transmission. That's just something I thought I'd mention in passing. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first half of our lesson for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天跟明天要带大家看一系列的跟身体部位有关的英文谚语 idioms。其实这个谚语啊，有点像是中文的成语。比如说我们说孟母三迁，其实它会有意义，对不对？然后它也会有一个故事啊，有一个起源。然后我们可能会常讲说，在什么情况之下我们会提到孟母三迁，或者是其他的成语。那当然英文也是一样的。所以其实啊，语言啊就是那个文化，语言就反映了说语言那个整个 society 社会当中啊，过去的一些历史，还有大家约定俗成的文化。那当然在我们今天的文章当中，一开始会先谈到这个所谓的 idioms。 我们特别注意一下第一段第一句有一个句型哦，比较后面的地方把4个字抓出来， when it comes to。 这个 when it comes to 啊，特别指的是当我们提到什么什么主题的时候，这个 when it comes to something 常常会放在句首，尤其是要破题或者是转换话题的时候。所以语言就是很特别。然后当我们谈到 idiom 的时候也是一样，因为 英文其实有很多的表达，它是感觉上好像字面上不知道在讲什么，但是其实是有特别意义的。同样在第一段的第二句，我们看到限定用法的关系子句，先行词是 expressions， 表达。什么表达呢？ that 到句尾可以左右括号，也就是说我们常常直译的时候就不知道是什么意思，但其实它有特别的意义。像我们今天开始看到的第一个 an arm and a leg， 字面上是一个手臂一条腿，但是它是什么意思呢？我们接下来的片语跟谚语啊，我们接下来会分3个部分。第一，会解释一下它的 meaning 意义。第二呢，会探讨一下它的 origin， 它的起源如何。然后我们会看一个 example sentence， 看在什么样的情况之下可以使用这些谚语。像我们刚刚提到的 an arm and a leg， 它其实是指的东西特别的昂贵，极其昂贵的意思。好，那为什么会有这样子的意义呢？那起源于什么？起源其实这个还是不太确定 uncertain。 我们在这个片语当中的第二句啊，看到一开始的字首叫做 while， 但是在这里不是问的意思哦，根据上下文推断，它是 although， 虽然起源还是不太确定 uncertain。 但是现在啊，大家都相信说可能其中有一个原因，可能就是例如你在意外当中失去了一条手臂或者是一条腿呢，那这个时候你的这个医药费是非常高昂的，所以它指的就是非常非常贵的意思。好，我们看到第3句哦，什么样的例子可以使用？他说啊，如果你要买那个跑车啊，这个花费你很多钱呢。Owning that sports car will cost an arm and a leg， 当然就是一个非常昂贵。但是有时候我们看别人，例如说带了一个什么1克拉的钻石啦，或者是用什么很有名的一些什么包包啊，我们或许也可以用推测来推测对方的东西应该是非常昂贵的。这个时候有时候可能会用到一个句型，就是 must have cost。 must 一定花了你很多钱， have 加 pp， 所以我可以说哇，你这个名牌包应该花了你很多钱吧。 It must have cost you an arm and a leg。 那这个时候就可以用这个谚语哦。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about English body idioms and their meanings. And we just finished talking about the first one here. An arm and a leg, meaning something is very expensive or you had to pay a high price for something. So we could talk about very nice clothes. Maybe you have a luxurious suit or a nice ball gown that you paid $1,000 for, $1,000 US, which I would think you could say it cost me an arm and a leg. Or it could be a sports car or a new house or something that you've saved up for a long time, something that's very near and dear, but also quite expensive. So moving on to the next one, it sounds pretty gross or grotesque to say you want to pick someone's brain. You want to what? I'm not going to let you pick my brain. That sounds awful. What does this mean?
Okay, what does it mean? Well, next we have pick your brain, a phrase often used when someone seeks to tap into another person's expertise or ideas. So yeah, I want to pick your brain about this because you're an expert, you know about this. I want to know what you have to say about this. I want to know about your expertise. That just refers to the state of being an expert at something. It's skill or knowledge that you have in a particular field. You might have expertise in computers, for example. Oh, my computer crashed. I want you to help me out. I want to pick your brains about my computer. I want to tap into your expertise. You're an expert. You should be able to tell me what to do.
Yeah, so one theory suggests it came from a medical practice where doctors would remove small sections of a patient's brain for study. I probably, if I had to guess, I would say this was several hundred years ago when we were just starting with our medical knowledge. And if someone passed away, it would give some of these brand new doctors or scientists who were interested in the body a chance to open that brain up and look inside to see what was inside. Otherwise, how would you know? They didn't have X-rays or MRI machines. They had none of our technology these days. They had to actually open up a person's brain after they passed away to see what was inside. So we think, or this is a theory, no one's proven it, but it's a theory, that this is where this particular idiom came from. So if you would open that brain up for study, they referred to it as, this is long ago, brain picking. Instead of, I guess, nose picking or picking your nose, they would be brain picking. To refer to something as something just means that's a particular name or phrase you give to something. So you can also say, this passage in my paper refers to a book I read long ago. That would mean you're just mentioning something or kind of alluding to it. You're mentioning it as you refer to it. New York City is referred to as the Big Apple. That's its nickname, you could say. So they referred to it, or they called this particular practice of opening up a brain and looking inside and studying it as brain picking.
Right. The guy on the other side of town who ran the Sinclair station, he was referred to as Bunny. Okay, that was his nickname. I don't know why they called him that.
That's a girl's nickname.
Yeah, he was called Bunny. I can't remember his last name, but he was like in competition with my father, whose gas station was on the east side of town, and Bunny's station was on the west side. But that's, just an example of the term referred to as. And yes, this term is referred to as brain picking. And it's about gaining insights into how the mind worked. That's what those surgeons did. An insight, of course, is some special information. If you pick someone's brains, you're looking for insights on how to do something, how to fix your computer, how to drive a car with a stick shift, for example. You're looking to get insights, and that's what the doctors did. Now, for instance, again, we've got another example. Could I pick your brain about how to start my own business? Yeah, you have your own business. You've done this for a long time. You're an expert. You have expertise. I want to gain insights into how to start my own business. Can I pick your brain about that? Can you give me some special information?
We often use this, actually, especially if you know someone who has some sort of expertise in a field. They're the first person or people you want to go to, or those experts. And you want to just casually ask them for some help. You want to pick their brain for a bit. It sounds less like you're asking for a lot of time if you just say, "Hey, can I pick your brain for a minute?" So instead of saying, "Can I use 3 hours of your time and get some advice?" So it's kind of a casual way to get some help from somebody, to gather some advice. Here's an example. Could I pick your brain about how to start my own business? That's some really important advice there. This illustrates or shows that the speaker desires to gather advice. To illustrate something can mean something literal, as in you're drawing a picture or you're adding photographs. To show something, maybe you're illustrating a story you wrote for a newspaper or a magazine. But here we're using illustrate to talk about how to explain or make something clear. So this is showing or explaining that we just need some advice. That's all you're trying to do here. What's the next one, Tom?
Okay, the next one is about getting something off your chest. Okay, so your chest, of course, is the front part of your body, your torso. It's where your lungs are. And let's find out what this means here. To get something off your chest describes the act of sharing a personal burden or worry with someone else. Okay, so you've got something bothering you, and it's just bothering you. It's tearing you from inside out. You just worry about this all the time. You need to tell someone about it to start to deal with it. So you want to get something off your chest. Hey, it looks like you got something to get off your chest. It looks like you've got something to tell me. What is it? Well, I just had a conflict with a coworker at work, and I thought that person was really mean to me, and it made me really upset. Yeah, you need to get something off your chest. You need to talk about something personal with somebody else.
It's also when you feel guilty about doing something wrong. Maybe that guilt starts weighing on you. And you just want to just get it off your chest by confessing to someone Sometimes just telling another friend makes you feel a little better. So I would include feeling guilty about something you did that was wrong. Maybe you were rude to your teacher at school, or maybe you didn't complete the task that your boss asked you to do in time, or you took some shortcuts you weren't supposed to. So sometimes just sharing that with a friend or telling somebody in authority helps you feel better. It kind of takes that weight off that's kind of smothering you. It's hard to breathe or hard to move because you feel weighed down. So the phrase does convey or gives the sense of an image being removed from your body, the image of removing a weight from your body, allowing you to feel lighter. An example could be, here's our example sentence. Maggie needed to get something off her chest, so she talked with a friend about her worries. That's a good example.
It is a good example. This kind of reminds me of another phrase that has a similar meaning, to have something hanging over your head. Okay, that just means you have something that you're worried about and you really want to take care of it. For example, every year I need to worry about filing my taxes, and I really don't want this thing hanging over my head. I'm tired of worrying about it. I really need to deal with it so that I can rest and relax and not worry about it. It's kind of similar here, to get something off your chest. In this particular case, it means to confess something. And we've got an example here. An example could be, Maggie needed to get something off her chest, so she talked with a friend about her worries, highlighting the sense of release that comes from expressing concern. So if you highlight something, you emphasize something, and that's what getting something off your chest does. It makes sure that you emphasize something. If it's something that's bothering you, you can tell it to somebody else, and hopefully you'll feel relaxed afterwards and you'll feel relieved.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best things you can do. If something's really bothering you, you need to share it with somebody who can help you. Or maybe it's just talking to a friend. I know with women, we tend to just like to talk to a friend for a while. I don't know what guys do, because you guys don't like to share with each other very much.
Yeah, it means you're kind of weak. You're not masculine. You know, you're not macho if you tell your buddy or your mate all your problems and things like that. So I suppose most men rely on their girlfriends or their wives or whatever if they need to get something off their chest. I think a lot of us just let it stew inside.
Or you go play video games.
That could be, or we go out and drive our car or motorcycle really fast or something like that. We get rather reckless. I don't recommend you do that, though. Find some more constructive ways to deal with your worries. But there you have it, a couple of the idioms that have to do with the body. Hey, it cost an arm and a leg. It was really expensive. I want to pick your brain about something. You're an expert. I want you to give me some special information. Oh, I've got something I'm really worried about. I need to get something off my chest and then be relieved. So there you have it. And next time, of course, we've got some more to talk about. And we look forward to seeing you then. But right now, we're going to hear from our Chinese teacher.
接下来第二个谚语很特别，字面上是把你的脑子给取出来了 ，pick your brain。其实它是向某人请教的意思。但是要请教什么呢？通常对方是有一个专业。在我们这一段当中的第一句。后面的地方有个单字叫做 expertise， 就是专业。好，所以我们如果希望取对方的脑子，通常都是为了要向对方请教，希望能够获得建议。那到底是什么样的 origin， 是什么样的起源呢？其中有一种说法是觉得说，这片语应该是源自于过去在医学实作上，医生可能会取出病人脑部的组织的一小部分，那这样就可以研究一下心智是怎么样来运作的。又被称为 brain picking。 那在这里呢，我们刚刚提到的东西是在这一整段的第二句的地方。当然破折号是说明解释的意思，破折号的前后就夹了所谓的当时这样子取出脑组织一部分 referred to as brain picking， 就是真的是把脑子拿出来一部分。那什么样情况之下会用呢？看到第三句说 Could I pick your brain about how to do something？ 我可以向你请教有关于什么什么事如何来做吗？好，那当然字面上都没有什么问题，可是我们特别把这个 could 动词的过去式抓出来。其实在英文当中，助动词的过去式它可以代表一种语态跟情态。例如说，助动词过去式的 could、might 它有很客气，甚至是指称这个几率很小的意思。所以 Could I do something？ 言下之意就是比较客气当然要向对方请教，就会客客气气的所以这个时候，如果你用 Can I， 还不如用 Could I， 会比较有客气、礼貌的这种语气在里面。好，最后面我们看一个 Get something off your chest， 把某个东西拿走，从你的胸腔、胸部或者是胸膛这个 chest，OFF 就有拿走、远离的意思其实它指的是向其他人分享自己的 burden， personal burden， 或者是一些烦恼。那比如说呢，我们可能会看到第三个例句，像某个人想要倾诉这个心中的烦恼就跟朋友聊一聊这样子呢就可以强调这个忧虑之后的一种释放感。在第三句当中我们看到一个关系子句的简化，逗点之后的 highlighting 还原应该是 which highlights， 不过要特别注意，这里的 which 指的是逗点前面 She talked with a friend about her worries， 是这整句话好，以上是我们今天介绍的3个有关于身体部位的 idioms， 我们明天见，我是安娜，拜拜。
That's the end of day 1 of our English body idioms. We're going to continue talking about more in our next program. We hope you'll join us then. And in the meantime, check out our YouTube channel and our Facebook page for more English help. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.